The day my husband said he never asked me to sacrifice anything, I did not cry. I smiled. I smiled because I was tired. Tired of explaining myself. Tired of remembering things alone. Tired of carrying memories that no one else wanted to hold with me. We were standing in the kitchen. The same kitchen where I had cooked for 30 years. The same kitchen where I had wiped tears from my face more times than I could count. The same kitchen where I had waited for him late at night, listening to the clock, hoping his workday had gone well. He said it so casually, like he was talking about the weather. "I never asked you to sacrifice anything," he said. His voice was calm, almost confused, like he was surprised that I felt hurt at all. In that moment, something inside me went very quiet. I looked at his face, the face I had loved since I was young, the face I had defended in front of others, the face I had believed in even when life was heavy. And I realized something painful. He truly did not remember. Not the nights I stayed awake worrying. Not the jobs I gave up. Not the dreams I folded away like old clothes. Not the years I lived around his needs instead of my own. To him, my sacrifices were just life. Normal. Expected. Invisible. I smiled because crying would have meant he still understood. But he didn't. And that smile was the moment I knew this story needed to be told. Not with anger, not with blame, but with honesty. Because sometimes the deepest hurt does not come from cruelty. It comes from being forgotten. Let me tell you about us. I met my husband when I was 22. I was full of plans back then. I wanted to work. I wanted to travel. I wanted to build something that was mine. He was kind, quiet, focused on his goals. He talked about his future like it was already written. A good job, a stable home, a respected life. I admired that. I believed in him. When we married, life felt simple. We did not have much money, but we had hope. We rented a small place. We shared meals on the floor. We laughed easily. In the early years, we made decisions together. At least that is what I believed. When he got a job offer in another city, I followed him. When his work hours grew longer, I adjusted my schedule. When money was tight, I stopped buying things for myself. None of it felt like sacrifice at the time. It felt like love. Then came the children. I left my job to stay home. We agreed it would be for a few years. But a few years became many. I was always busy, cooking, cleaning, helping with homework, waiting. I supported his career quietly. I listened when he was tired. I encouraged him when he doubted himself. I celebrated his promotions. When people praised him, I felt proud. When he succeeded, I felt like I had succeeded too. That was my mistake. Because while I was building his life with him, I was slowly disappearing from my own. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself it would be worth it. I told myself love meant giving. And for a long time, I believed that. The changes were small at first. He started coming home later. He talked more about work and less about us. When I shared my worries, he listened, but only halfway. I noticed he stopped asking about my day. At family gatherings, people praised him. They called him successful, hardworking, a good provider. No one asked about me. When I tried to return to work, it felt impossible. My skills were outdated. My confidence was gone. I mentioned it once at dinner. He said, "Why do you need a job? We're fine." Sounded kind, but it felt like a door quietly closing. I started to feel lonely in my own home. I handled everything so he could rest. I avoided asking for help because he was tired. I told myself my needs were smaller. Years passed like this. Then one evening, after a long day, I said something simple. "I feel like I gave up a lot," I said softly. He looked at me, confused. "That was your choice," he replied. "I never asked you to." Those words stayed with me. I began noticing how often my efforts were dismissed, how my silence was mistaken for comfort, how my support was seen as automatic. I was not angry. I was sad. Sad that love had turned into expectation. Sad that my sacrifices had no memory. The turning point came quietly. It was a family dinner. Children grown. House quiet. Someone asked him how he achieved so much. He smiled and spoke about hard work, long hours, personal discipline. He did not mention me once. Something inside me broke, not loudly, but completely. Later that night, I told him how I felt. Really told him. I spoke about the job I left, the dreams I paused, the years I stayed small so he could grow. He listened. Then he said it. "I never asked you to sacrifice anything." That was it. In that moment, I understood. He did not see my choices as shared decisions. He saw them as my responsibility alone. I realized I had been supporting a life that did not include my story. I did not argue. I did not raise my voice. I simply became quiet. The weeks after that were strange. I started doing small things for myself. Walking alone. Reading again. Writing my thoughts. I stopped explaining myself. He noticed the change. One day, he asked, "Are you upset with me?" I said, "No. I'm just listening to myself now." Slowly, I began reclaiming parts of who I was, not out of anger, out of necessity. He struggled to understand, but something changed in him, too. One evening, he sat beside me. He looked tired, not from work, but from thinking. "I didn't realize," he said quietly. It was not an apology, but it was a beginning. I forgave him, not because he was right, but because holding pain was hurting me more. Today, our marriage is different. Not perfect, but more honest. I learned something important. Sacrifice without recognition becomes loneliness. Love without memory becomes imbalance. If you are listening to this and you feel unseen, please remember this. Your sacrifices matter, even if no one asked for them, even if no one remembers them. And if someone forgets your effort, do not forget yourself. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is quietly choose your own worth again. Thank you for listening to my story.